Well, if sport washing gonna increase my GDP by 1%, and then I will continue doing sport washing.
Breaking news, Cristiano Ronaldo has signed for Saudi side Al Nassr. They have now confirmed it.
Significant breaking news. It's to do with the Saudi Pro League. Al Hilal have just announced the signing of Neymar from PSG.
Now the big story shaking up the golf world. The PGA is teaming up with Saudi-backed LIV Golf.
Riyadh has bought rights to host a major ATP event, the finals of the men's under-21 tournament. The hosting rights are for 4 years.
Saudi Arabia's rags to riches story is one of the most dramatic in modern history. Before the discovery of oil in the 1930s, it was a poor and underdeveloped country with most of its population living in poverty and the country itself dependent on foreign aid. However, the discovery of oil transformed Saudi Arabia into one of the richest countries in the world. Its oil reserves are the second largest in the world, and Saudi Arabia is the world's largest exporter of oil. Its enormous oil wealth has been used to finance rapid economic development, with the country investing heavily in infrastructure, education and healthcare. Saudi Arabia has also become a major player in the global economy, with investments in everything from real estate to technology. But more recently, the nation has invested heavily in sports, including the Saudi Cup, the world's richest horse race with a prize pool of $20 million. The Professional Golfers Association, or PGA Tour, investing billions of dollars in the PGA Tour, as well as buying a stake in the Live Golf International Series, a breakaway golf tour. And football, where they've bought stakes in Premier League clubs Newcastle United and Manchester City.
To the back of the net!
These investments have drawn criticism from human rights groups who argue that Saudi Arabia is using sports to whitewash its human rights abuses. Critics argue that by associating with sports organizations, Saudi Arabia is trying to make itself seem a more modern and progressive country, while at the same time ignoring the serious problems in its own society. So, can a country really use marketing tactics to wipe away its transgressions? Or is this just another symptom of the modern world we live in? Welcome to the Global Insight. Sport washing, also known as sports whitewashing, is a term used to describe the practice of authoritarian regimes or wealthy individuals using sporting events and organizations as a means to improve their image, divert attention from human rights abuses, and promote a positive image on the international stage. This concept has gained prominence in recent years as various governments and organizations have used sports, particularly international events like the Olympics, World Cup, or major sporting clubs, to bolster their reputation.
Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund had made a $390 million offer to buy Newcastle from the British businessman Mike Ashley.
Here are some key criticisms of sport washing. 1. Image improvement. Authoritarian regimes or individuals with controversial reputations invest heavily in sports, such as hosting major sporting events, buying popular sports teams, or sponsoring high-profile tournaments. By associating themselves with these activities, they attract global attention and create a positive image associated with the event. 2. Diversion of attention. Sport washing can serve as a distraction from internal problems, including human rights abuses, political repression, and corruption. By drawing international attention to sporting events, the focus is shifted away from critical issues within their own countries. 3. Legitimacy and soft power. Hosting major sporting events or owning prominent sports franchises can provide a sense of legitimacy and soft power on the global stage. It can help authoritarian regimes gain recognition and acceptance from the international community. 4. Promoting nationalism. Sporting events can be used to foster a sense of national pride and unity, which can be a powerful tool for maintaining control and rallying support for a regime, even in the face of internal dissent. 5. Economic investment. In some cases, authoritarian governments invest heavily in sports infrastructure and development, which can have economic benefits and improve living standards for their citizens. However, these investments are often criticized for primarily serving the interests of the ruling elite. Examples of sports washing include countries like Russia hosting the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi and Qatar hosting the 2022 FIFA World Cup, both of which. Additionally, ownership of prestigious sports clubs by individuals with controversial backgrounds has raised concerns about the use of sports as a tool for image rehabilitation. Critics argue that sports washing can help perpetuate human rights abuses and corruption, as it allows those responsible to escape accountability and scrutiny. They emphasize the importance of transparency and ethical considerations when awarding major sporting events or investments in the sports industry. Sports washing is a form of propaganda that involves several strategies, which includes 1. Hosting sporting events. Country events like the World Cup, Olympics, or other high-profile tournaments, and by doing so they attract global attention and create a positive image associated with the event. 2. Purchasing or sponsoring sports teams. Entities invest in or acquire ownership of sports clubs or teams, and this association with popular teams allows them to piggyback off the mass appeal of those sports and gain credibility. 3. Participating in sports. Governments or organizations actively participate in sports, whether through athletes, teams, or sponsorships. This involvement creates a perception of goodwill and distracts from other controversial actions. Examples of sports washing include hosting the 2019 World Athletics Championships. These were held in Doha in Qatar, but the Saudi Arabian government was a major sponsor of the event. This allowed the country to showcase its new sports infrastructure and its commitment to hosting major sporting events. Qatar's hosting of the 2022 World Cup was labelled as sports washing. Despite controversies surrounding labour conditions and human rights, the tournament was ultimately designed to enhance Qatar's global reputation. The £300 million takeover of English Premier League club Newcastle United by a consortium led by Saudi Arabia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, or Public Investment Fund, faced criticism due to the Saudi regime's human rights record. The deal was seen as an attempt at sports washing. However, given the increased reporting of human rights abuses in Saudi Arabia and Qatar before and after these events, it is hard to argue that these deals have achieved significant sports washing objectives in the short term. Saudi Arabia itself has recently become a significant player in the global sports arena, hosting events, acquiring teams, and enticing athletes with lucrative contracts. They've made some enormous investments in sport like the World Cup and staging the Saudi Cup, the world's richest horse race. In 2019, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund acquired a 10% stake in Manchester United in a deal that was seen as a major coup for Saudi Arabia, allowing the country to associate itself with one of the most famous and successful soccer teams in the world. They've also entered into a 10-year deal with the WWE and ventured into Formula One racing. Notably, they fielded a team that defeated Argentina in the World Cup, a triumph celebrated across the Arab world, who enticed Cristiano Ronaldo to play for a team in Riyadh, offering him a jaw-dropping salary of over $200 million per season. Another effort included was an investment in the Super League in 2021. As one of the founding members of the proposed Super League, a breakaway European soccer league that was ultimately scrapped, the Saudi government's involvement was seen as an attempt to challenge the dominance of European soccer and to promote its own sports ambitions. These are just a few examples of Saudi Arabia's sports washing efforts. The country has also invested in other sports such as boxing, golf, and tennis. It is likely that Saudi Arabia will continue to invest heavily in sports in the years to come, as it sees these investments as a way to improve its image and project its power on the world stage. Critics argue that these mega events are financial loss leaders used to launder Saudi Arabia's image. The term sports washing implies that countries can cover up bad acts through sports. human rights groups accuse Saudi Arabia of using sports to obscure its poor human rights track record and authoritarian rule. For instance, we must consider that Saudi Arabia has a long history of human rights abuses, including the arbitrary detention of political opponents, the torture of prisoners, and the execution of civilians. These abuses have been documented by a variety of human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch. In response to these criticisms, Saudi Arabia has argued that it's simply trying to use sports to promote its culture and values, and that it is committed to improving human rights in Saudi Arabia. Prince Abdulaziz bin Turki Al Saud, the country's Ministry of Sport, rejects the concept of sports washing. He believes that sports can bring people together and doesn't agree with the negative connotations associated with the term.
You've heard this term sports washing, this idea that countries can cover up bad acts through sports. Do you believe in the concept that a country can use sports this way?
Not at all. I don't agree with that term, because I think that if you go to different parts of the world, then you bring people together. Everyone should come, see Saudi Arabia, see it for what it is, and then make your decision. See it for yourself. If you don't like it, fine.
Indeed, many point to the involvement of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia. He's been personally involved in many of the country's sports deals, and he has used his position to promote Saudi Arabia as a modern and progressive country. So while Saudi Arabia claims its sports investments are part of a larger strategy to transform its economy, the debate continues. Is it genuine transformation or a cynical attempt at public relations designed to gloss over their human rights issues? So how can we protect against sports washing and ensure that sports events and organisations maintain their integrity and values? This will require a combination of efforts from governments, international bodies, sports organisations, and civil society. But here are some steps that can be taken to protect against sports whitewashing. Transparency and accountability. Establish clear and transparent criteria for awarding major sporting events to countries or cities, taking into account human rights records, political practices, and ethical considerations. This requires hosts to demonstrate a commitment to upholding human rights and preventing abuse in connection with the event. Human rights due diligence. Organisers must conduct human rights impact assessments before awarding major sporting events and monitor the situation before, during, and after the event. They must also encourage sports organisations to adopt strong human rights policies and codes of conduct, ensuring that they are enforced. Civil society engagement. Governments must support and empower non-governmental organisations, activists, and journalists to raise awareness about human rights abuses and corruption related to sporting events. Public debate and scrutiny of the social and political implications of hosting major sporting events should be encouraged. In addition, organisers should promote each of the following: media coverage and investigation, encouraging responsible journalism and investigative reporting to shed light on the real conditions in host countries and any abuses taking place, ethical sponsors and partners, encouraging sponsors, corporate partners, and broadcasters to uphold ethical standards and consider the impact of their association with sports events in certain countries. International sports governing bodies. Pressurize international sports organisations to take a more proactive role in promoting human rights and ethical practices in sports. Public awareness and boycotts. Raise public awareness about the issues related to sports washing and the potential negative consequences, encouraging boycotts or protests by athletes, fans, and governments in response to serious human rights abuses associated with sporting events. Positive role modelling. And finally, we need to promote positive role modelling by athletes, coaches, and sports figures who speak out against abuses and engage in initiatives that promote human rights and social justice. It's essential to strike a balance between promoting the positive aspects of sports and respecting the values of integrity, fairness, and human rights. The collective efforts of governments, sports organisations, the media, and civil society can help prevent sports washing and ensure that sporting events do not inadvertently support or legitimize unethical practices or human rights abuses. When the world is looking on, it's more important for nations to promote positive efforts and reward positive actions than to use underhand methods in a cynical attempt at covering up transgressions. Thanks for joining us at the Global Insight in watching this video. If you've liked it, let us know by commenting and sharing. For more great videos, follow our channel, The Global Insight. Just click subscribe. Thanks again, and until next time, stay tuned.
It is another historic night for Novak Djokovic. He is the champion